everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing the long-awaited manga collection video. So my collection has grown exponentially over the past year. I had around, I think, 750 volumes at the end of 2023. No, 2022. And then obviously I've only filmed these type of videos once a year because they take quite a long time, and it's just one of those videos that I think I can only do yearly. But yes, my collection has grown a lot. I think it's doubled in size in the past year. I did go a little bit crazy in 2023 in terms of manga buying. So this is my collection tour at the start of 2024, and I'm currently at around 1,300 volumes on my shelves. Yes, that's a lot, but super exciting stuff. Got lots of things to show you, new series as well. I'll probably talk a little bit about it if I know about it or if I've read it. I'm not the best at explaining series, in my opinion, so just bear with me, but I'll try to give a little tidbit of what it's about. I won't go into in-depth though, because that would mean the video would be like hours long. So yeah, hopefully this won't go on for too long, but we'll see. But yeah, hope you enjoy, and definitely let me know down below what you enjoyed collecting this year, and definitely let me know what you thought of the video. So yeah, let's get started. So the first shelf here is my seinen section. So here I have Bride Story by Kaoru Mori. This one I read ages ago and really enjoyed, but the hardcovers were really expensive, so I stopped collecting it. But it's basically about this kind of tribe, and they're kind of nomadic tribe as well, and they kind of go around and they've settled somewhere at the moment. And this lady, I think she's like in her late 20s, she ends up getting married to a boy, which it sounds really weird, but it's done really well, and I think you should try it out. And then the next one is A Galaxy Next Door. This one I haven't read yet, but it has kind of sci-fi element to it. I think this girl, the main girl, is from a different galaxy, and she comes here and she starts helping this mangaka help with his panels and stuff. And then later they kind of develop a relationship, basically because he does something accidentally. So yeah, I know some people do really like it, like Suki Notes, but I haven't started reading it yet. And then here we got A Witch's Printing Office. This one is Kaken's favorite isekai. It's about a girl who gets reincarnated, and then she starts working in a printing office with all these witches. I haven't read it yet, but I'm planning to read it this year. And then next we have Dinosaur Sanctuary. This one is a dinosaur manga, fans of, I guess, Jurassic Park will probably like this one. It's got loads of dinosaurs. And the next one I have here is Blue Period. This one is an art manga. It's about a guy, I think he's kind of like a delinquent in school, but he has really good grades, and then he ends up stumbling into someone's classroom where they have this really beautiful picture, and then he kind of gets inspired and starts getting into art, and it's kind of his journey through developing his art skills and I think like art competitions and stuff. And then we have this one, which is Final Fantasy Erzia Academy. I forgot how to pronounce that, but this one's just like a school take on the Final Fantasy characters from Final Fantasy 14. I really enjoyed Final Fantasy 14 when I played it before, so I decided to get it and see what it's about. And then we've got Sweat and Soap here, which is a really cute, really healthy depiction of a adult relationship. It's basically has like the weirdest title and concept, but don't let that throw you off. It's really cute. I definitely recommend this one. It's basically about a guy with kind of a smell fetish, and he really likes the smell of a colleague that he works with who actually is very conscious of her sweat. But yeah, it's really cute. Recommend this one. And then we got The Splendid Work of a Monster Maid. This one is also one that Caketons really enjoys, and I have not read this one, but I think it's about this demon king, and there's these maids that work for him, and then they're trying to find something for him, and they do stuff. I don't know anything more about that. And then we got The Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting. This one is a Yakuza manga, those typical ones where Yakuza end up having to do mundane things, and I think one of the Yakuza leader's right-hand man ends up getting tasked with taking care of his little girl, and it's just really cute. Sweet story. And then I got One Dance here, which is a hip-hop dance manga. I haven't actually read this one, so can't tell you much more about that one. So we're down to the second bit of this shelf, and we've got Kowloon Generic Romance. This one is also about a office, and there's two colleagues, a lady who's on the front cover here and her colleague who she basically has a crush on, and there is some kind of sci-fi element here in this, which I would recommend you just go into this series blind. But the art style is really stunning, and it can be a little bit confusing in my opinion. I read up to like volume 3 online, and it was kind of confusing, but I'm definitely going to try to reread it and see if it helps if I do a reread. And then we got March Comes In Like a Lion. Let me just read. And this one is by the same author who did Honey and Clover, I think. I've actually not read this one, but it's quite critically acclaimed. A lot of people enjoy this one, and I've also really liked Honey and Clover back in the day, so I'm going to try this one. And then we got Essence of Being a Muse. This one was given to be my Press. It's basically about a girl who kind of has a difficult time at school as well as at home, and then she kind of runs away from home and starts to pursue like an art kind of career, and it's just kind of her journey of discovering herself. And then we got Yakuza's Bias. It's about a Yakuza. He is like very feared in his industry, but then he ends up going to like a concert with one of, I think, his boss's daughters or something. He escorts her, and then he ends up falling for this particular K-pop idol, and he basically starts getting obsessed and wanting all the merch, and he starts like a Twitter account where he talks about his bias, and it's just really hilarious. And then we got Mr. Villain's Day Off. It's basically about, this one's really episodic. It's basically about a villain. He is plotting to destroy the world, but it's a story about what he does on his days off, and he's basically obsessed with pandas. And then I got Yakuza Fiance here, Reis wa Tanagai. This one is about a Yakuza who, there's like 2 Yakuza clans, and they are trying to set these two up so that they can kind of unite the clans together. But he is like, oh, you're like super boring and plain. But then she like shows him like how bad boss she is basically, and then he starts getting infatuated with her and like obsessed with her like really, really creepily. And it's just a really kind of messed up Yakuza love story. It's not really, I feel like it's more toxic than anything. It's not really a super love story, but she's like really, she kind of does some things that like proper boss, like she's like a proper girl boss, and he is weird and creepy in my opinion. But yeah, it's just like a Yakuza manga. And then we got Witch Hat Atelier here. This one is a kind of like, a lot of people compare this to having like a very Studio Ghibli vibe. It's basically about this girl who really loves magic, but she wants to become a witch, but obviously you can't just become a witch because the way to do magic is kept really secret. But then she ends up finding out how magic is actually you're able to cast it, and then she starts knowing this secret. So then they basically take her away to this magical kingdom school where she starts to learn magic. Then over here we have Witch Hat Atelier Kitchen. This one is kind of like a spin-off of the main story, and I haven't read this one, but it's basically, I think, about like them cooking and stuff like that, like the characters in this main story. And then here we've got Touring After the Apocalypse. If you read my top 10 reads of 2023, then you'll see that this was in there, and it's basically about a slice of life manga where these two people are exploring the desolate remains of Japan, and they're touring the areas to find like resources and food and other life forms. And then this one is Cat Gamer. This one is about a girl who's like a really big gamer, and then she ends up finding like a stray on the street near her office, and then she decides to adopt the stray, and then it's just her adventures of owning a cat. Very relatable, this one, if you're a gamer and you have a cat. And then we got Apothecary Diaries, which was also part of my top 10 manga of the year. Super love this one. I'm sure everyone knows about this one. The anime has been really popular and it's really good. It's basically about a girl, Mao Mao, who gets pretty much kidnapped and taken to the palace court to become a servant there, but then she is really clever and she solves a mystery, which then promotes her to become a food tester for a concubine, and her adventures start from there. And then we have Skip and Loafer here. This one is basically about a girl. She is pretty much like a country bumpkin, and she comes to Tokyo to start high school, I think. Yeah, it's high school. And then she starts meeting loads of people there and also running into this guy. And it's kind of like a high school slice of life story and just like discovering yourself and discovering friendships and things like that. It's very cute. And then I got The Skull Dragon's Precious Daughter. This one I haven't read yet, but I feel like it's about something similar to, I guess, The Girl from the Other Side, where this dragon is basically taking care of this little witchy girl. And then on the third section of this area, this one actually is a shojo, but it fit here with the Tokyo Revengers, so I just left it there for now, but I'll probably move it around. But this one is Don't Call It a Mystery. This one is about, I think it's a guy. He's kind of socially awkward, but he's good at solving mysteries. That's pretty much all I know about it. Very well acclaimed shojo manga, and I think it's by the same person who did Bizarra. And then up here we have Akane Banashi. This one is about a girl whose dad was a rakugo performer, and he basically, something happened to him during one of his rakugo tests, and then so she decides that she wants to take after her father and become a rakugo artist as well. And it's kind of her story of how she develops her skills and moves through the ranks in the rakugo world. And this one was really good. I really liked the first volume. And this one is Tokyo Revengers. I think this one is kind of like a time loop manga where a guy, I think something happens to his girlfriend in the past, no, his girlfriend in the future, and then he ends up being able to go back in time, and he's trying to redo his life so that he can save his previous girlfriend. I tried watching the anime, didn't really enjoy it, but everyone says the manga is good, so I'm going to try out the manga. And then the summer Hikaru died, I have volume 1 and 2. I read the first volume. I thought it was very weird, very creepy. It's very atmospheric, and I feel like the first volume sets up the tone for the story. Like, it's very weird, and also I'm wondering how they're going to further the story as it goes. But it's basically about a guy who has a friend, and his name is Hikaru, and he disappears for a week, and then when he comes back, he is not the same person that his friend knew him as, and it's kind of like just very creepy. So yeah, it's horror manga. This one is Windbreaker. This one is about like a delinquent. It's a delinquent manga. Haven't read it, but I heard some people really enjoy it. And here I've got Saura and the House of Monsters. This one is about a girl who goes monster hunting, but then she ends up making friends with loads of the monsters instead, and then she kind of sets up a house for them to live, and it's kind of like very cute. And then over here we have Free Room volume 1 to 9. Really great series. I've talked about this also in my top 10 manga, so if you want to know more in-depth thoughts about that, definitely go check that out. But this one is about a elf mage who goes on a traveling party with these adventurers to defeat the Demon King, and it kind of a story about what happens after they defeated the king. And it's kind of takes a look on mortality, because she lives a really long life but her adventuring friends don't, and it's her taking a journey that she once took before with a newly appointed apprentice. And then over here we have Moriarty the Patriot. This one is about Sherlock Holmes's rival in history, Moriarty, and it basically talks about his life and his journey, and he kind of solves mysteries and trying to make it like a change in society, I guess. And then over here we've got Kimono Jihan. This is actually a new series for me this year, and I only started collecting it at the end of last year. I haven't read it actually, but I've already collected so much of it. I think it's mainly because someone on the manga dudettes Discord talked so highly about it, so I ended up just getting it, and then I saw them all in Forbidden Planet for 3 for 2, so I was like, why not? But yes, we'll see if I enjoy this one. And then we got Spy Family here. Everyone knows what Spy Family is. Basically about a guy who's a spy, and he's been tasked to infiltrate basically a person who is kind of wanted in that industry, and the only way to do it is if he can get a little kid, to become friends with the person they're seeking after, his son, and then hopefully they can like infiltrate their family that way. And so he but he seeks out to find like a fake family, and so he ends up finding a fake wife and a fake daughter, but then the daughter is telepathic, so it just causes a lot of interesting hijinks in this story. And over here we have Case Study of Vanitas. This one is by the same author who did Pandora Heart. I haven't read it, but I got a bunch of these used for a very good price. But I think it has something to do with like vampires. And then back here we have 1 to 20 of Food Wars. I have a few missing. I think I'm missing 16, and I'm also missing 4. But this is a kind of battle shonen manga, but about cooking, and it's basically about a guy who enters a very elite cooking school, and then he does a lot of like food battles there. That's hence why Food Wars. And it's just a ridiculous, funny manga, and it has a lot of like food gasms, I guess. And the actual person who did the art was actually an 18 plus adult manga artist, so that's why the drawings are very like lewd sometimes. But yeah, it's really silly and stupid, and it's very funny. And then up here we have Tokyo Aliens. This one is about a guy who, his dad was part of a alien kind of force where they kind of keep track of aliens in the human world, and also their whereabouts and things like that, because aliens basically live amongst humans. And he doesn't know that his dad was part of that kind of organization. He thought his dad was just a regular worker, but his dad passes away, and then he discovers he has a run-in with an alien, and then the people who are kind of part of that organization basically find him in that situation and help him out, and then he gets kind of dragged into that world of aliens and organizations about aliens and things like that. It was quite good. I liked the first volume, haven't continued it since though. I've got Sunbeams in the Sky. This one also given to me by Yen Press. I haven't read this one, but I think it's about 2 twins, and then one of them is, I think something happened, and then the other twin ends up going to school for her, and then I think she like starts falling in love with one of her boyfriends. I don't know, not sure about this one. And then this one is obviously Kaguya-sama. I have loads of gaps missing. I don't know which ones, I can't see at the moment, but I have 1, and then I have up to 24. I need to fill in some gaps here. But this one is about 2 students who are part of the student council, and they're both very competitive, and they're constantly like doing battles basically about who's gonna win, who's gonna concede, etc. But I think they both end up developing feelings for each other, but then obviously no one wants to admit it because they have their egos. So it's just like a story of them constantly like battling it out, and who will basically confess first. Apparently it's quite long-winded, and it takes them forever to actually admit their feelings. But I really liked Akasaka's other work. I forgot what it's called, Oshinoko over there. And I decided to pick up the rest of her other series I think it's a her or a he, I don't actually know, but pick up their other series to try this one out. And then over here we have Oshinoko, which is the manga that I really liked by the same author here. This one is kind of a look into the idol industry, and also this idol here has twins, and then 2 of the people that really liked her, who are her fans, reincarnates into her twins, so they kind of have the mind of adults when they're babies, and they grow up, and then something happens, and basically the twins both enter the entertainment industry to get revenge. And yeah, the story kind of follows that. So it's really twisted, very good look into the entertainment industry. Definitely recommend this one. And then we got Unnamed Memory, about a guy. I don't know if he's a prince or someone, but there's a myth of if he goes to the top of the tower, there'll be a witch that will grant you their wish. And then when he goes there, he finds this girl, and then he basically tries to make her marry him and become his fiance, and then stuff happens there. I don't remember because I read the first 2 volumes, but I kind of forgot what happens. But yes, I have volume 3. I don't know where it went. And then down here, I have Attack on Titan. Loads of random volumes I got used on Sci-Fi. And Attack on Titan is probably one of my top favorite animes. I actually haven't finished it because I was waiting for it to just end so that I can binge watch the whole series. But it kind of, the hype of it kind of fell off once it took so long for each of the anime seasons to come out. So I'm gonna try to continue it, but I just picked these up because I really like the anime, and yeah, wanted to get some of the manga volumes. And then back here we have the entirety of Haikyuu. Haikyuu is also one of my all-time favorite animes. I also haven't caught up with the anime. I actually finished probably season 4, and that was about it, and half of season 4 I think. But I absolutely love the Haikyuu anime. I've rewatched season 1 to 3 many times. Season 3 is the best season. Tell me if I'm wrong. You can't. But yes, it's really good. So I decided to collect the manga last year because I love the anime so much. So yeah, I'm going to try to do a big read through of it when I get the time. Then down here we have some of my, I guess, fiction books here, some of random ones, and then I have down here some Heaven's Official Blessing as well as Thousand Autumns. Those are danmei, which is like BL novels. I haven't actually read any of these yet, but I know they are quite popular and a lot of people love them. But yeah, I'm excited to try those soon. And then over here we have the omnibuses of Fushigi Yugi. They're kind of like the Viz Big editions, and I actually had the singles before, but I gave them away because I bought most of them used and the conditions of them were not really nice. And these ones were so pretty, so I had to get these ones. And this one is a very old shojo story by Yu Watase. It was one of the older shojo stories that I guess kind of had like an isekai element. A girl kind of gets transported into another world, and then there's like royal kingdoms and things like that. And yeah, a lot of people used to really love that series, so I decided to get it because I never actually read it when I was younger. And then on to the next shelf over here, we have some of my shoujo beat stuff. So a lot of my skip beats. So I have 1 to 34 of skip beat, and then I'm missing 35, and then I have 36 to 48 over here, corner over here. And if you've been on my channel for a while, you know I love skip beat, and if you want to know more about the story, you can check out my top 10 manga reads of 2023. And then we got Nana here. We got 1 to 21, so this is complete of Nana. This one is also a very well-loved shoujo story about 2 girls who share the same name, Nana, and they kind of meet and cross paths, and then they end up, you know, being roommates and, you know, having this really lovely friendship. And there's a lot of like difficult themes and topics and mature themes in here that you wouldn't expect probably like a younger shoujo story to have, but it does have that. And there's a lot of like relationships issues and a lot of things like that happen in this story, and it's actually still on hiatus due to Yazawa's health. We're not sure when we're ever gonna find out if it's gonna end, but yeah, I have the whole set to support because I actually love the anime. I've not read the manga before, so I definitely want to try that this year. And then over here we have a random volume here of Cosplay Love Otaku X Punk. This one is a kind of cross-dressing story about 2 delinquents well, one delinquent and one kind of nerdy guy, and they both cross dress. He works in like this cafe, and then this person also cross dresses to see this person in the cafe because he thinks that he'll look less intimidating as a girl, and then they actually start liking each other, but they don't know that they're both cross dressing, and it's just a really silly premise. And then we got another yazawa work here, which is Neighborhood Story. This one focuses on the older sister of one of the characters in Paradise Kiss, and I haven't read it yet, but really excited for this re-release. And then we got Paradise Kiss. Obviously, this one is about a girl who kind of is like aimless in life. She doesn't really know what to do, but then one day she kind of gets scouted to be a model for this fashion show, and then her kind of passion for modeling begins. And then there's a lot of mature themes in this one as well, and it's just a lot of drama and angst, and yeah, it was really good. I love the anime for this, so I decided to get the manga. And then down here we have my kind of older things, tokyopop, as well as my older shojo beat stuff. So I have Aishiteru is a Baby. This one is, I really love this one back in the day. I read it a few times over and over, but this one is about a guy in high school. He's kind of like a playboy, and then later one of his aunties ends up dropping off their kid for them to take care of, and then he ends up being the role of her caretaker, and then he learns a lot about taking care of a child and, you know, things to do about that. And it's just like really sweet about how like a guy kind of grows out of his childish ways to look after his little baby niece. Yeah, it's really cute. And then I have this older tokyopop called Dazzle. This one is by Minari Endo. This one is a really weird manga in my opinion, and I probably wouldn't recommend it now, but it's basically about a girl who ends up getting kicked out of her house by her father around like 16, and is like, oh, you need to go and explore the world, so I'm kicking you out and you go explore, basically. And that's a really weird premise, but then she ends up meeting this guy, I don't remember his name, Azild I think, and they end up teaming up to, you know, travel together, and it's very interesting, strange. There's a lot of like violent stuff that happens, and it's just, yeah, weird because she's like 16 and I think he's like very older. So yeah, it's weird. I liked it when I was young though, so because it was probably one of the first like more older gory stuff that I read when I was young, so it was very like unique to me at the time, but I wouldn't recommend it now. And then over here we have Dear Angel. This was one of my childhood favorite series back in the day. It's basically about a guy who their family has this curse, I guess, passed down to them where they can transform into a legendary phantom thief called Dark, and he basically steals like artifacts from museums and things like that, and it kind of follows that journey. But then he also really just wants to be a normal boy because he likes this girl, but that girl actually fancies the phantom thief Dark, and then the girl also has a twin who fancies him like as his real form, Daisuke. Yeah, it's all kind of like loads of like, it's like a love square, I guess. And then there's these people who are trying to obviously find Phantom Thief Dark and like capture him because he's stealing all these artifacts. And yeah, it's kind of a story of like mystery, intrigue, as well as like a lot of love and relationships in this. And I really liked it. It went on hiatus for ages, and I think it finally finished at 13 volumes, but obviously it never got printed because Tokyopop went bust. So I have never actually finished the story of how it turned out. So maybe I will revisit it one day. And then over here I have one of my favorites, classic shoujo stories, Kodocha. This one is about a girl who is like a child actress, and she has like this bully at school who is like making a mess out of her school days, and then so she ends up like sticking up for the class and trying to like take down this bully. And then she actually finds out that he has a very troubled family, and so she tries to help him out, and then later he kind of reforms and they start a really nice friendship and obviously blossoming romance. But then obviously there's a lot of things that come in their way because, you know, she has like this person that she likes, and then he also really likes her but doesn't know how to show it, so then there's all these like misunderstandings. So it's just a story about people kind of growing, two children kind of growing up and finding love, and also, you know, finding things about the adult world. And yeah, it's a really good story. I really like this one. I've reread it many times. As you can see how old and battered it is. I've had it since I was probably around 12 years old. Yeah, this was one of my first mangas that I ever purchased. And then up here we have Tokyo Mew Mew, also one of my childhood favorites, classic ones. I remember reading this and absolutely loving it. I remember I was in a school orchestra at one point, and we were doing rehearsals, and while I was waiting around for my friends, I was reading this, and it was just so good. I loved it so much. But this one is like a classic kind of magical girl series where a girl ends up getting like the gene of these like extinct animals, and she has one that's like a cat type being, and then she ends up trying to gather the people who also have that gene to kind of save humanity from all these like weird beasts and aliens that are kind of trying to ruin the world basically. And she is obviously in love with a guy at her school, and she's trying to hide her identity. And yeah, it's just a classic magical girl series, and it has, for me, it has a lot of nostalgia. I don't know if people will enjoy it as much now, but it has a lot of nostalgia for me. And here we have Gakko and Alice, also a really nostalgic series for me. I absolutely love Gakko and Alice. It's probably one of my favorite animes. It makes me laugh so much, and I used to watch it with one other friend I had back in high school, and we're still friends now, and we used to absolutely laugh so much about this anime when we used to watch it. And I ended up getting some of the volumes on eBay for this like a few years ago, many years ago, and it was really cheap. I think I got this whole set for like £15 at the time, which is crazy because these are so out of print. But that's why like number 6 is horrible, because it was like a used volume. But yeah, this one is about a girl who has a best friend in the countryside. There are people with like magical abilities, and her friend has one of those abilities. They're called Alice's, and she gets sent to the school of people who have Alice's, which are the special abilities. And because her best friend leaves, she ends up chasing her best friend to that academy to get her back, as well as to maybe join the academy as well. But then she ends up running into these bandits, and then something happens, and then this teacher oversees this and then sees that she actually does have a magical ability, and Alice as well, which you'll find out if you read it. But yeah, so then she also gets admitted into the school of Alice, and a lot of fun things happen. She tries to make friends, and then lots of things happen behind the scenes, and there's a little bit more darker elements to the school as well. And yeah, it's just really fun. Hako's come to help me film. Hello, Hako! Hako! And then down here we have Wolf Children. Wolf Children is a kind of I don't know if this came first, but I think it was made into a manga after the anime adaptation or the novel. But this one is a really great story. But I would say I would recommend watching the anime, because the anime feels a lot more heartfelt, especially with the music. So I would definitely recommend the anime. But yeah, it's about a lady in college. She ends up meeting a guy there, and he's actually like part wolf. And so they end up getting together, having a relationship, and then they end up having 2 children, and the children also are able to transform into wolves. And the father actually passes away, and she ends up moving to the countryside to start a new life, because obviously living in a crowded area with 2 wolf children is very difficult. So she ends up moving there, and then it kind of follows the story about them discovering whether they want to be a wolf or they want to live as a human. And yeah, it's very heartfelt, really good story. I absolutely love it. And then we got 1 to 2 of Fruits Basket Collector's Edition. I have actually not read Fruits Basket in its entirety. I've only ever watched the anime, and I absolutely loved the anime so much, but I haven't read it yet, and I need to read it. So I'm hoping that I can start reading it this year. We shall see. There's just so much to read. But yeah, This is a classic shojo, and it's about a girl. I think she's like homeless due to some kind of debts from her parents or something, and then she ends up being discovered by this family, and then they take her in. And I think the family are based on like zodiac, so some of the guys in that family can transform into different animals of the zodiac if they ever get in contact with the opposite sex, something like that. But it follows that story, and there's a lot of like deep elements in here that a lot of people talk about. So yeah, I need to get on that. I don't remember what exactly happened in the anime, but I remember it being really sad. And then the next one here, we got Josie, the Tiger and the Fish. This one is about a girl who is paraplegic, and I think it just talks about her kind of life and how she goes about it. I have not read this, so I'm not sure how good it is, or if it's like, I heard it's like quite heart-wrenching and quite sad, so I'll have to be in the mood for that kind of story. And then here we got Oh Maidens in Your Savage Season. This one is by Mari Okada. This one I got mainly because I got a few of the first volumes for very cheap, and then I realized it was by Mari Okada, which is one of my favorite screenwriters, directors for some anime movies that I absolutely love. So obviously I had to check out her manga series, and I think this one is about a bunch of schoolgirls who are in like a literature club, and they talk a lot about like sexuality and kind of the meanings behind that, and also kind of delving into that. And I guess it's like a taboo subject for when you're that young age, but then they kind of, I guess, normalize it a little bit more and things like that. And then I got Cuckoo's 3, which is, I think this one is a graphic novel I got sent to by Yen Press, and I'm not sure what this is about, but it looks like a BL. And then we got As Miss Beelzebub Likes. I got these two for really cheap. I actually had no idea what it's about, but I really like the fashion style at the front cover, so I ended up getting it, and I still haven't read it, but yeah, I need to get on that. And then over here we have Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card. This one is the second series to the main Cardcaptor Sakura story. I've collected pretty much all of these used. As you can see like loads of yellowing. This one's like from Cleveland Library, etc, etc. I still need to read the main story before I get into this one. And then we got Konosuba. This one I bought because someone who used to support me in my streaming days told me to get it, so I got it. Still haven't read it, but he absolutely loved this character Aqua, so yeah, that's why I got it. And then the next one is Reborn as a vending machine now at Wonder the Dungeon. The only reason why I got this was because Kaiten said it was really good and she loves the story. So I decided to get it, but it's basically an isekai about a guy who gets reborn as a vending machine, and he really likes vending machines, so yeah. And then I have this stray volume of Kaiju number 8. This one actually should be in my husband's collection, but he hasn't taken it from when we went to Forbidden Planet, so somehow it's here. But Kaiju number 8 is a really great shonen story, battle shonen, about a guy in his 30s who wants to become part of the Japanese defense force against kaiju, but he is kind of stuck cleaning up the mess of after these kaiju get eliminated. And then he ends up retrying the trials, I guess, to become part of that defense force in the hopes of keeping his promise to a childhood friend he had before, where they said they'll both become part of the defense force and work together. And he miraculously ends up getting admitted into the force, and it kind of focuses on his story about how he ends up becoming quite powerful because he gets injected by this bug or something, and then he actually can turn into a kaiju. Yeah. And then over here we have I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. I think this one is about a girl who actually has pancreatic cancer, and I heard it's really sad as well. I still haven't read this one. And then we got Daily Report About My Witch Senpai. This one is really cute, and I'm really glad that they decided to continue the story after the first 2 volumes. It was supposed to end after 2 volumes, but they decided to continue it due to the popularity, and I'm really glad because it's a really sweet story about two people who work in an office together, and one of the girl, she's a witch, and it's very episodic, but it's very sweet, and they both start forming a really cute relationship together, even though she's a witch. And then we got Beast of Abigail by Speaker Aoki. This one is by the same author who did Kaiju Girl Caramel Lies, and this one is a really cute story. It kind of cut short at 4 volumes, so I felt like there could be more depth to the story, but it was good for what it was. Basically about a girl who ends up moving to another state, I think, and then she ends up getting caught up with these like beast-like beings, and then she ends up getting admitted into the beast school because she kind of like gets these abilities as well. I don't remember because I read it like the beginning of last year, but yeah, the humans basically keep these beast-like creatures locked up in this kind of specialized school because they want to control them, because obviously, you know, humans always want to control things that are stronger than them. So yeah, and it's kind of them trying to plot to escape the specialized school and kind of take over as well. So yeah, it's good for what it was. I think it could have been better, but yeah, still enjoyable. Alright, and on this shelf we have some of my manhwa. Sorry about the angle. I don't have a tripod that goes high enough for this top shelf, so I'm just gonna have to do it like this. But this one's Chako. This one's a manga by Hybe, which does kind of like K-pop manga, and this one is with BTS. I think this one is about like a magical society, and they're trying to like form together to help bad things are happening. I'm not 100% sure about this one, but I got sent to me by Izy Press. But yeah, this one is Returners Magic Should Be Special. I have not read that one yet either, so not sure what to say about this one. And then we got A Stepmother's Marchen. This one is about a girl who basically gets an arranged marriage to this duke, I think, and then he ends up passing away, but she has to look after all his children that he left behind, who were from his previous marriage. And they end up basically hating her because obviously she's a stepmother. But then one day she gets time looped back into the day of her husband's funeral, and then she obviously has all the memories of her past life, so she's like, I'm gonna try and do better this time, and she tries to fix her relationships with her stepchildren. And then we got Bloody Sweet, which is about a girl who basically is getting bullied. She's kind of a loner, and then she meets this kind of vampire person, and I think they form like a bond together. And then we got Business Proposal, which is, I've only watched the K-drama, so I'm not 100% sure if it follows the same, but it's basically about a girl called Hattie. She has a friend who is always getting set up with like arranged meetings for like marriages and things like that, but she doesn't want to go, so she asks her friend Hattie if she can go instead and basically act really crazy so that the potential guy is put off and then cancels like the arrangement. But then she ends up going, and it ends up being the CEO of the company that she works at, and then he also actually wants to get married to her after their like meeting, and so she kind of tries to navigate that and also hide her true identity at her workplace. And then we got Dark Moon, which is a vampire manhwa about a girl who basically has super strength, but she ends up going to a school full of vampires, and it kind of, I think there's going to be a lot of, I guess, love relationships, everyone falling in love with her, something like that. And then we got Dangerous Convenience Store, which is a BL manhwa about a guy who works at a convenience store that gets frequented a lot by scary mobsters and gangsters and things like that. And then there's one particular gangster who comes, and he basically is a lot more nicer, even though he looks really scary, and actually defends the guy who works at the convenience store a few times, and then they kind of start a first intimate relationship due to some circumstances, and then ends up actually having like a more sweeter relationship. Everyone is obsessed with this, and I do really like it as well. And then Daughter of the Emperor, this one I also haven't read, but I think it's about a girl who gets time loop back into the body of when she was a lot younger, like into a baby, and she obviously has her previous memories because I think the emperor, her father, ends up killing her later on, so she's trying to reverse that fate that she once had before. And then we've got Imitation. I think this one is about like a singing, like getting into the entertainment industry manhwa. And then Intense is a really good BL manhwa in my opinion. It kind of reminds me of Twittering Birds Never Fly, so Koyo Nada's work, because it has like dark elements. It's kind of has that yakuza mobster type vibe, and yeah, it's just really good. Really like this one. I recommend it. Not a lot of people talk about this one. I like it. And then over here we have Jungle Juice. This one is about a guy who basically has like this bug like features. He able to turn into like a bug, and he can also fly, and he wants to just live a normal life, and he goes on a date with a girl, and then during that time something happens, and then he ends up saving that girl using his abilities, and then she's like completely freaked out, and then he gets like the attention of this society who are also have these abilities, and then he gets recruited, and I think they basically try to save humanity, the world type of thing. And then we got the My Gently Raised Beast here. This one is also a really good one. It's basically about a girl who is an illegitimate child of like a higher ranking person, like a duke or something, and they end up finding her and taking her to back to their house, and then she's kind of ostracized by society because she's obviously an illegitimate. She's not like the real heir or anything, and so she's a bit loner. But then she ends up running into this like cat-like creature, and then he actually can transform into a human, and then she finds out about these magical beasts that basically used to rule the world, but then obviously the humans and these magical beings had like a pact, and then they kind of living more like peacefully together. But I think the humans are trying to plot against these magical creatures, as they do, and try to take over them and control them. And then it's basically about her friendship and blossoming romance with one of the magical creatures. Very cute story, recommend. And then we got an old one, Magical JR. I don't remember what this was about, but I just remember the art was really good and really pretty. And yeah, I don't think the story was anything special from what I remember, but yeah. And then we got Not So Wicked Stepmom. I was gifted the first volume by Cake Tins. We kind of did like a manga swapsies, and then the second one was really cheap, so I got it, but I haven't read this one. I don't remember what Disney thing it was about. It was either Snow White or Cinderella. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. And then we got Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. This one is about a guy who basically is reading his light novel, and then as soon as he finishes reading this light novel on a train, something happens, and he ends up in the world of the actual light novel that he read. And then obviously because he's read like that whole series, he kind of knows what's going to happen, so then he tries to navigate his way around this like brutal world with the knowledge that he has. And then we got Honor Off, which is also a BL manhwa by Tokyopop. This one is an office-based romance, and a lot of people love this one. I still haven't read it, but I have got the 4 volumes, so I will try to read it soon. And then over here we have Pulse by Ratana Satis. This one is a Jihel manhwa, but Ratana Satis is a Thai author, and this one is a really cute GL story about, well, it's not cute, it's quite saucy actually, but it's sweet in a way. But it's about a heart surgeon who is very stoic. She kind of doesn't have time for love. She doesn't believe in love. I think it's because she got hurt in her previous relationship, from what it's hinting. But then she ends up meeting this girl who has a heart condition, and the girl gives this lady a kind of challenge and be like, oh, if I can make you fall in love with me, then you have to do my heart surgery, because this surgeon is like really renowned and she's really good at what she does. So somehow the surgeon ends up accepting the challenge, and they end up kind of having this cohabitation arrangement. And yeah, it's quite good. I've read up to I've on volume 3 so far, and yeah, it's been really fun. It is very spicy though, so it's definitely 18 plus only. And then over here we got Remarried Empress. This one is a really good story. If you want to know more about it, definitely check out my top 10 reads of 2023 because it was in there. So yeah, it's really good. And then we got First Night with the Duke. This one I haven't read yet, but I hear it's a story about a girl who ends up spending a night with the Duke and something happens. That's all I know. And then next we have The Boxer, which is a boxing manhwa, I'm assuming. And that's all I know about it because I haven't read it. And then down here we have Star Seekers. This one is another manhwa by Hybe, which is the K-pop, and this one is with Tomorrow X Together. Haven't read this one either, but I think I read an excerpt of it, and it's basically in the entertainment industry. They have like people with magical abilities, and the more magical abilities you are, the more popular you are in this entertainment industry. And there was a group of, I think 6 of them, who had the potential to be really popular because one of the members, their mother is like a superstar basically because she has really strong magical abilities, and the guy was expected to have them as well, so they kind of invested a lot in them. But then later on, after they debuted, like 3 years later, none of them have unlocked any kind of magical ability, so they're kind of like crashing right now. But then something happens, an event, and I think one of them ends up gaining these like really powerful abilities, and something happens there. And then we got Villainess. The Villainess Turns the Hourglass. This one is obviously a villainous manhwa. I haven't read this yet, but it looks really good. And then we got Villains Are Destined to Die 1 to 5. This one is a very popular manhwa, and I actually still haven't read it because I'm saving it for like a volume try vlog for my manhwa series. But I've been collecting it because I know I'm gonna love it, and everyone, because the premise sounds really good. So yeah, just waiting to read this for one of my vlogs. And then we got What's Wrong with Secretary Kim. It's basically about a girl who is kind of slave to the workforce. She is a secretary for this guy who's like really stuck up. He kind of doesn't really care about anyone, and he just cares about himself. But then later she's like, you know what, I'm getting older now, I need to start my life. So she ends up resigning, and then the guy is like, what the heck? And then he ends up chasing her to, you know, not resign, and he ends up like liking her and things like that. And then I got Who Made Me a Princess. This one is also similar to A Daughter of an Emperor, where a girl gets kind of time moved back into the body of her younger self, and it follows that story. And then over here we have Why Raeliana Ended Up at the Duke's Mansion. I've also collected it for up to 5 volumes, and also saving this for my try 1 vlog, so I haven't read this one yet. And we got Witch of Mine. This one I actually also not 100% sure what's about, but a lot of people were talking about it and saying it's very heart-wrenching, sad, so I had to get it. And then over here we have some random volumes that I'm trying to get rid of. So The Promised Neverland, because I have the box set for that now, and Imaginary because I didn't really enjoy it. I found it really weird and confusing. Thigh High. This one was a funny gag manga, but not something I want to keep. And then Snow Fairy, a BL that I thought was a little bit boring, in my opinion. If you want to check out my unhaul, I did an unhaul which featured these, and I talk more about them, so check that out if you want. And then over here we have some of my isekai and villainess sections. So we got Ascendance of a Bookworm. I've read the first volume. It's basically about a girl who loves books so much, and then she gets reincarnated into another world because she ends up getting hit by a truck, I think. I don't remember how she dies. But then that world has like no books, so she's kind of on the discovery and mission to basically find books and produce books, basically. So yeah. And then we got My Savior's Book Cafe and Story in Another World. This one is a really cute story about a girl who gets reincarnated into another world, and she basically has really strong magical abilities because when she does get reincarnated, she basically asks for like the most power, and they just give it to her. But then when she gets to this other world, she just ends up setting up a book cafe, and then this handsome knight ends up visiting the cafe because he loves reading books, and then they start a lovely relationship, and it's really cute. Yeah, really, really love this one. Definitely check this one out if you're new to isekai and you want to try something new. And then over here we have My Next Life as a Villainess Girls Patch. This one is a side story from the main story of My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom, and it's basically about the girls in the story. Obviously a lot of the girls in that story fall for Bakarina, the main girl, and I think it focuses on that. And then we got Cross-Dressing Villainess Cecilia Sylvie. This one is about a girl who basically is fated to death because she is like crowned like this holy maiden thingy. I don't remember what it's called, but it's very similar to the concepts of a lot of these stories. But then because that is going to trigger the events of her immediate death, she ends up just cross-dressing as a girl so that she never has to take the test of this like holy maiden thing, because if she's a boy then they won't even ask her to test for it. So then she just cross-dresses so that she can avoid them finding out her being like the holy maiden. And then we got the Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess. This one is an interesting one where the girl actually gets reincarnated as the villainess in her own story that she wrote, and it follows that. I don't know how I feel about this one particularly. I think it was a little bit boring. I read like the first 2 volumes and not pulled to read the rest, but I got these really cheap. But I'm not sure about this one. I might end up unhauling this one day. And then we got Formerly the Fallen Daughter of the Duke. This one is about a girl who actually is reincarnated, but her memories of it is really like unclear. So she's one of the stories where she doesn't actually know what happened to her in her past life, but she has like these foggy memories that do come up once in a while, and then she's like, what is this? Is this like reality or what is going on? But she basically has a sister, and they're both supposed to be really powerful, but when they take the test, she has like the smallest amount of power, whereas her sister has a lot of power. So her sister gets like all the glory and stuff, but they find out that she was supposed to get tested at her original location of birth, which they find out wasn't where she took her test, and then something else happens because something about her mother is like unique. Haven't continued it, so not sure how it continues, but I've read volume 1 and 2 and I did enjoy it for what I read. Alright, it's getting really sunny, so hopefully you can still see, but this one is I'm the Villainess, so I'm Taming the Final Boss. This one was also in my top 10 reads of 2023, so definitely check it out if you want to hear more about it. But it's basically about a girl who is trying to avoid her death by, I guess, seducing the final boss that ends up killing her so that he won't end up killing her in the end. And then I was reincarnated as a villainess in an otome game, but the boys love me anyway. This one is obviously another isekai. Haven't read it yet. The spines are horribly boring though, if you can see. And then up here I've got When a Commoner Broke Off Our Engagement. This one was enjoyable, but it's also a bit weird in my opinion. It's basically about a girl who, when there was like 2 babies born at the same time, and then these elves are like, ha ha ha, let's do some trickery, and they end up swapping the babies. So one baby ends up in the wrong family and the other baby ends up in the wrong family, and then this girl basically grows up in her family, and they're like really, really beautiful. They have blonde hair and she's got brown hair and she's a little bit plain, and they've always been like, oh, is this really my child? But then she ends up overhearing one of these elves talk about it when she's not supposed to see elves, and the elf basically exposes that she is adopted. Well, not adopted, but she was switched at birth, but obviously she loves her family, so she doesn't want to let them know, so she tries to keep it under wraps, but then it gets found out later and then some weird things happen. But yeah, this one it was enjoyable, and I do want to know what happens next, but I found it annoying at the end when her family just like, yeah, something happens with the family. I'm a bit like, that's a bit weird. Anyways, we got Princess of Convenient Plot Devices. This one is about a girl who gets reincarnated into a BL universe, and she basically shipping all the people together. And then we got The Villainess Stands the Heroes, playing the antagonist to support her faves. I haven't read this one, but obviously it's a villainess, so I got it. Sugar Apple Fairy Tale. This one, I did not enjoy this one. The anime got a lot of hype, and it is stunning. The anime is really, really stunning, so I would recommend watching the anime. But this one, the art style, in my opinion, is not great, and it doesn't kind of accentuate the beautiness of the characters that they did in the anime. So the anime did it really well, and it's basically about a girl who is like a sugar maker, but they make like sugar like crystal thingies, and it's like important for like the fairies and stuff like that. But at the moment, fairies are antagonized because the humans obviously want to rule over the fairies. So fairies are used as slaves now, and she wants to enter like this competition to become like this sugar person. I don't remember what it's called, but she tries to enter a competition to do that, but she has to travel a lot further away. So she ends up buying one of the slaves to basically guide her through this travels so that she can make it there safe. And it's kind of weird at first if you think about it, like she's buying a slave and there's that kind of power dynamic there, and he's also a lot older than her. She's only like 15 or something, so there's like an age gap there, which is also really weird. So yeah, I don't recommend this one in my opinion, and I think I'll be unhauling that soon. And then we've got Maiden of the Needle over here. This one is really, I like this one as well, because this one was basically about a girl who is, I think, adopted, or is actually in her own house. I don't remember, but they're really horrible to her because she can't do this like magical weaving that family is really famous for, and she ends up getting kicked out and then sold to somewhere else because she's useless. And then when the place that she goes to, they find out that her weaving is actually even more magical and powerful than they thought, because it's very unique and like it's really rare. She ends up getting the attention of like this king, and the king wants to protect her in case like word gets out, and then her older family want to take her back, and obviously she was mistreated there so badly. And yeah, it's a little strange at the end when the king, like, maybe I won't spoil it, but basically something weird happens at the end that I think is, it could have been done better, but I did enjoy it. I do really like the weaving aspect and like her making these clothes and all this fashionable stuff, so I really like that. And then we got Tear Moon Empire, which is about another girl who gets time looped back into, or is it reincarnated? I don't remember, but she gets time looped or reincarnated back into her older self, her younger self, sorry. And then she finds out obviously she got executed or killed or whatever, and she starts to redo her life from when she was younger, and then obviously tries to change her fate. But we got Seventh Time Loop. This one, anime is coming out at the moment, everyone's really liking it, but this was one of my favorite reads of 2022. Really like this one. It's basically about a girl who consistently gets time looped back into the same day of when her engagement got broken off, and every time she gets time looped she ends up doing something new. So one time she's like a merchant, the next time she's like a medicinal person, and then the next time she's like a maid, and another time she's like a knight. And in her seventh life she decides that she wants to live a carefree life. So when the king of another nation proposes, she accepts, and so she tries to kind of live her life more freely, because the person who actually proposed to her was the one that killed her every time she died in her previous lives. So she's trying to stay close to him so that she can avoid her death this time, and it's really, really good. The girl Rish is very, very self-sufficient, so I really love that about her, and she's just very clever, and she goes about ways in which she can support herself in this lifetime. Alright, it's really, really sunny. I hope you can still see. But we have I Swear I Won't Bother You Again. This one is about a girl who obviously gets executed because she is basically really mean to one of her sisters. And then this life she is just avoiding that sister basically. And then I think she tries to change her fate. And then this one is The Most Heretical Last Boss Queen. Haven't read this one, so not sure what this one is about. But I'm pretty sure it follows kind of like the same concept as most of the villainous stuff. And the villainess level 99, I think this one also follows the same formula as well. And then over here we have Magic Artisan Dahlia Wilts No More. I got all 4 of these super cheap on Waterbooks, so I got them. Haven't read this one, but I know Kate Tins really loves this. And then we got White Cat's Revenge plotted on from the Dragon King's lap. This one I've read, and it's basically about a girl who has like an obsessive friend. She and her friend end up getting transported into another world, and they find out that the friend could be the Holy Maiden because she has dark hair or blonde hair, I don't remember, but it's actually dyed. She had dyed her hair, so it's not real, but then they think it's her. And then her friend ends up staying at the kingdom, but then they kind of banish her, and so she runs away. But she's actually got the magical abilities and lots of power, so they've kind of switched their roles, and they don't really know. And then she also has the ability to transform into a cat with this like magical bracelet that she gets from like these fairies and stuff, because fairies are really like attracted to her, like they want to help her and be around her, so that's why she's like really powerful. Basically there's a war kind of brewing between these 2 kingdoms, and then she's trying to stop that. And yeah, I read it a long time ago, so I don't remember exactly what happened at the end, but yeah, I do remember really enjoying this one. And then up here we got The Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent. I think this one is about a girl who's like quite overpowered, but I'm not 100% sure because I also haven't read this. And then another one I haven't read is A Confidence of a Duke's Daughter. This one is also, I think this one is also villainous, but I'm not sure how it is with this particular novel. But yeah, I need to read this one as well. And then down here we've got My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom. This one is obviously one of the most popular villainous mangas that kind of started the whole villainous trend, I guess. It didn't start the trend, but it definitely made it more popular. And this one is basically about a girl called Bacarina. Well, we call her Bacarina because people think she's a bit dumb, but she basically has like a bad fate, but she gets reincarnated back into her younger self, and then she tries to live a different life so that she can avoid her fate. So she doesn't like try to create any conflict. She's just trying to live her own life and also be able to sustain herself if she does ever get banished. So she ends up like starting to, farm as well, and like make farmland and also grow crops and things like that, so that when she does end up getting a bad fate, she will be able to survive and things like that. And it's just a really fun story. I really like Macarena. I think she's really endearing. So I don't know if people find her annoying. I don't know, but I think she's really great, and I really, really love the story.